Muramasa, the Demon Blade, from the same company that brought us Odin Sphere and Dragon's Crown. It is almost impossible for someone who collects Wii games not to mention Muramasa as one of their favorites or hidden gems that they just think you have to have. There are a lot of things going for Muramasa, not the least of which being the visuals. I think anyone would say hands down this is one of the best looking games on the Wii. If you've enjoyed a previous game from Vanillaware, you'll likely enjoy Muramasa the Demon Blade as well. It has a lot in common with their previous titles. The action is really the centerpiece for this game, which is good, but after a while it got very redundant to me. I felt like I was doing all the same things. Which is kind of a shame because the game has a really neat mechanic with your katanas. You can equip up to 3 katanas on your characters, and they offer a variety of abilities, including one ultra special attack that can deal a lot of damage or, I don't know, heal you or something like that. But after a while, when you use them, they kind of deplete in energy and they have to be sheathed. And if they break, then you can still use them, they just do a lot less damage, which is a totally fine mechanic, but after a while I just find myself button mashing and hoping it doesn't break and then switching to the next one and just doing it all again. I didn't see a lot of strategy in that idea. Other games have used that mechanic a lot better in my mind. Take for example Devil May Cry on the PS2, you have guns and you have swords. Well yeah, they're ultimately different types of weapon, long range and short range. The katanas here are the same, there's a short range katana and a long range katana, but they didn't really feel all too different aside from how much damage they would do. Whereas in Devil May Cry, you can link them together, do lots of cool moves, and they have a distinct personality to each of them. You can tell, yeah, this enemy's going to be better to kill with a sword, or this one's going to be better to kill with guns. But in Muramasa, you just see, I need to kill this enemy, I should equip my strongest one.
人臭い
That can't always be said for the entire game. The boss fights offer a lot of variety and they change up that formula. You might actually need to have a bigger range katana to beat a certain boss, or you might need to save your mega attacks for the head of the enemy that's way in the sky, instead of hitting him on the feet on the bottom of the beach. But it doesn't really make a big difference in my mind, and on that point I feel like that's Muramasa's worst aspect. Despite this, and like many gamers I would assume, I found myself really attracted to the game, even though it wasn't that great, and that has to go to the visual style. It is just awesome to look at. There's lots of cool things going on here, so much so that the gameplay even implores you to use the visuals as clues to what to do. They might highlight areas where you need to go with like a little flash, or enemies will jump in and you know like, oh, I can go there. So it's neat. The game knows that, hey, this is going to be a fun looking game. We should probably use that to make it better, and they do. There are a handful of modes you can select at the beginning of the game, and they affect how the game will actually play. In one mode, you actually have more of an RPG feel where your character will level up and get stronger. In a different mode, it's just more action-based, where instead of leveling up and getting avatar strength, you actually just get better skills that make it easier to kill bosses. You're not actually getting any more health or any extra abilities in that sense. For the insane, there's actually a mode that I don't think I had unlocked, or I never even noticed that you can do, but you can just have like one hit point and there's no levels, and it's just insane. No. Sadly, and maybe it's because of the storyline, there's no multiplayer here, and I feel like that would make the game a lot better. Adding a second player could have really changed up the gameplay. They could have made it so you had this 2 katana attack, or bosses that would need to get killed in a specific way if there were 2 of you. Something like that. And the game has 2 main protagonists. At some point it could possibly work out that they'd be together. I think that would have been cool, and so maybe in the future, you know, they did it with like Dragon's Crown, this could be something that Vanillaware and these games explore more. Muramasa is such a divisive game. Lots of people praise it, but as I'm playing it, I'm just thinking, this isn't that great, or they could have done this a little bit better. I think people get lost in the idea that the game visually looks good, so it must be good, or that it's from a good developer, so we have to like it, and that's just not the case. The game hasn't done anything egregiously bad here, it just hasn't done anything exceptionally well either. As far as games go on the Wii, this is still highly recommended. It's a very fun game, it's pretty polished, and it's a lot better than some of the stuff you're gonna find on that system, and for a collector, it's a great item, it's a cool showpiece. But as far as gameplay goes and extra value, unless you're dedicated to the sort of repetitive nature the game is gonna offer you, there's probably something better that you could play. That being said, there was actually a remake on the PS Vita as well, which added extra characters and extra storylines, so maybe that game is gonna be a little bit better. Despite all this, I feel like Muramasa deserves a sequel. If there was something they could add to make it better, such as multiplayer, or a different sort of combat system, something that made the game a little less boring, I think that would make me enjoy the game even more. With the variety of views out there, yes or no to this game, I feel like you just have to play it for yourself. If you can find the game, I still say it's worth it. If nothing else, you get a few great hours of gameplay in before you decide, yeah, I want to keep going, or nah, I'm done with this one. Visually, it's one of the best games on the Wii, but in terms of gameplay, it's kind of in the middle of the road. You need to make your own call on this one, but for me, I'd say it's just okay.